Hello and welcome back. Today we're going to talk about My Hero Academia chapter 230, and quite frankly I want to start with Twice because obviously the beginning of the chapter kind of revolved around Twice's character, and we get to see it kind of transition into what looks like it's going to be more of Dabi, which I'm really interested in, as well as Gigantomachia, which I'm obviously also extremely hyped about. But starting with Twice, we get to see how in a flashback he obviously started doubting himself because he wants to be useful to the League of Villains, and because he couldn't really clone these bullets that they got from Overhaul, he felt a sense of I guess uselessness or whatever because he wasn't really contributing in the way he wanted to. And he obviously sees the League of Villain as his own family, meaning he doesn't really want to be kicked out of it. Now, as we know, Shigaraki would never kick Twice out because of the fact that he has been such a great help, as well as the fact that Shigaraki has in the past said that he does value each member of the League of Villains as his own family right now, meaning that no one's really gonna get kicked out unless they really betray the League of Villains, and Twice has never really done anything like that. So Twice is honestly in really good hands, but obviously in the past he probably didn't see it that way. Then there's the fact, of course, that he, along with some other people in the league, has had some pretty big mental barriers, some anxiety problems maybe, and some social problems, especially Twice, I think, because as we saw last chapter with that huge flashback we got from him, in the backstory of Twice, he was really having one bad day and it turned his whole life around. And when you've been through that, I think your mental state and all that kind of shit are definitely going to be a dumpster fire at that point, because how do you recover from that without professional help, which he clearly didn't get, at least not to the extent that he needed. And obviously whenever he started cloning himself, that just made everything even worse. So I think the way Twice thinks about all this kind of stuff, it makes a lot of sense, and it is one of the reasons why I think he has one of the best backstories in the series, because it really shows us that, despite him having joined the League of Villains, all of these problems still lingered up until this chapter pretty much, where he seems to have overcome a lot of it. Now, he definitely still feel for all of the kind of stuff that happened in the past, but he seems to have gotten over it to an extent because he has to protect his fellow league members, especially Toga, which he has a pretty strong connection to, as we all know. So we see an absolute army of Twice clones, and that is something that I'm really interested in, because it's kind of said that he can only clone two things at once, which I'm very curious about exactly if that means two different things or if they are including clones of the same thing, because he looked as if he were cloning an absolute million of himself. And obviously the fragility of these clones is going to be extremely high. I mean, they are going to shatter like glass pretty much. I'm pretty sure they will, because of how many there are. But like, if anything, this is going to serve as a pretty good distraction to the Quirk Liberation Army, and obviously some people in the Quirk Liberation Army are going to get overwhelmed by the sheer amount of Twice clones there are, and they're going to be able to dwindle the numbers pretty significantly, I think, especially the weaker ones. Obviously they're not really going to be able to do much against one of the higher end sort of enemies. I think that's pretty obvious, like Apocrypha, Skeptic. These kind of people are probably not going to be hugely affected by these clones because of how weak they are compared to some other people out there, like Dabi, for instance, who is fighting Apocrypha right now. I'm assuming that's Apocrypha based around the fact that we haven't really seen anyone else who would be Apocrypha, unless I'm mistaken. But if that character that Dabi is fighting is Apocrypha, then I'm really curious if that is actually Natsu Todoroki, which a lot of people have been theorizing that it may be, simply because of how he's using ice. Of course, that's like the main thing, and he is seemingly someone who would do that, I think, because he really wants to get back at his father. Like, I feel like that's one of the big reasons why he would be prompted to do something like that if he is in fact Natsu Todoroki. A lot of people may question, well, how can it be Natsu Todoroki if he's part of the Quirk Liberation Army? But as a lot of people have pointed out, he could just be putting on a facade, and he may not actually have any sort of interest in the Quirk Liberation Army. Now, whether that is the facts or not, it's up to each and every one if they want to believe it. I personally kind of believe it, but also I'm very open to the fact that it may not be the case, and I'm open, like, I'm gonna accept it either way. Like, I'm not fussy like that, especially since it probably won't be a big deal if it's not so, and if it is not so, I'm sure it's gonna be great, because Horikoshi has shown us in the past that he can pull out a character character and their backstory and their reasoning for doing things quite well. He's not really bad at these things, even if they're not all like completely unique. At least he does a good job at it, you know? Now, what I really liked about Apocrypha's fight with Dabi as well is the fact that we get to find out more about Dabi's quirk. We also get to find out more about Apocrypha's quirk, because Apocrypha seems to have, like, he's explaining how his quirk can just pretty much go into the sewer system and use all that water, you know, all that kind of stuff. He's pretty much explaining that even if he runs out of water here, he can still go and get some more water and turn it into ice. You know, it's not a big deal. And Dabi, he's just pretty much insulting him left and right, saying, why didn't you do that from the beginning? You're just making yourself look like an idiot now. And then he proceeds to explain Dabi's weakness, I guess in an attempt to really lower Dabi's guard or whatever, you know, to really make Dabi realize that this guy knows so much more about Dabi than, you know, a lot of other people may do. Because now Dabi's weakness is confirmed to be that his skin does start to like degrade and peel off if he uses his quirk too much. Like his fire will actually start to hurt himself. And that is something that has also been theorized a lot by a lot of different people on the basis that what Dabi's quirk was before it was like confirmed. I mean, it hasn't really been properly confirmed, like the drawbacks and all of that, but as we know now, it's a very strong flame and it seems to be hurting him, which makes a lot of sense. If it's blue flames, it's like the hottest type of flame you can get, and he is burning himself if he uses it for too long. Like if he uses it too extensively, it's going to start burning himself and it's probably gonna cause permanent damage. So I found that to be quite interesting. So Dabi's obviously found someone that can actually put up a fight against him, despite the fact that Dabi wanted a quick fight. You know, Dabi wanted to win a really quick and easy win, as you can expect, like especially with that drawback to his quirk. You know, he wouldn't like a long fight because that's just gonna hurt him even more. Dabi's quirk is just gonna keep damaging him even more if the fight drags on for too long, and that is why he doesn't really want that to happen. But I think Dabi's gonna step things up now that the guy he's fighting actually know what his drawback seems to be. Now at the end of the chapter was quite interesting though, because we see how the doctor is actually forcibly waking Gigantomachia up. I don't really think anyone saw that coming. Like I kind of expected Gigantomachia to actually wake up at his appointed time, but it turns out, you know, he's gonna have to be forcibly woken up simply because Shigaraki may need Gigantomachia's help right now, because, and the reason for that obviously being that he's sleep deprived. You know, he's doing his best to fight despite the fact that he needs sleep like desperately, but he can't get it right now because he's in the middle of a fight with that Quirk Liberation Army who has one of their own as a hostage, and they obviously want to free that person. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. Giren is a very valuable source of manpower to the League of Villains, as well as him getting equipment for them. So I can definitely see why they would go after Giren, like to this extent, you know, why they would risk so much to get Giren back, as well as the fact that obviously, as they said, they had a satellite that could pinpoint their location, meaning that targeting them wouldn't be that big of a deal, especially if they can report it to the heroes. And the League of Villains wouldn't really like that because that makes them extremely vulnerable, so them going after this group makes a lot of sense. And Gigantomachia stepping in now is going to change things as we know it, because he is going to wreak havoc like nothing the Quirk Liberation Army has ever seen. This dude can probably pulverize this city in a heartbeat, especially given what we saw Gigantomachia do off screen when Gran Torino was retrieving Kurogiru. We saw a chunk of a mountain just completely gone after Gigantomachia was finished. And I think that is the type of destruction we are about to see in the next couple of chapters, and I'm extremely hyped about that. I don't know about you guys, but I want to see Gigantomachia just go full ham on this group of villains while Shigaraki and everyone else is going after the sort of main dudes. Like, have Gigantomachia attack the fodder, because as you know, there's so many of them. So having Gigantomachia go for them would be really interesting to see, while Shigaraki goes after Reed Destro, you know, Dabi goes after Apocrypha, Twice going after Skeptic, and so on and so forth. Anyway, I'm gonna end this review here, so I'd like to know what you think down below in the comments about this chapter. What did you think about the whole Twice things at the beginning of the chapter, the Dabi stuff, like around the middle of the chapter towards the end, and then of course Gigantomachia waking up prematurely. Like, what are your thoughts on this? Personally, I'm really excited to see exactly what is going to unfold now that Gigantomachia is going to be part of it, you know, earlier than expected. And I'm not even sure if Shigaraki and the others know that Gigantomachia Katja is about to come in early. Like, is the doctor gonna warn them or not? Like, I guess we'll find out, won't we? So if you did, be sure to Detroit smash that like button if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. This has been Chaotic Plus, and remember everybody, Toga is waifu, Toga is laifu.